Hey Retro fans, welcome to another episode of Retro Gaming Memories. In this episode I'm going to talk about something that we all did back in the day, and that was pirating games. Now this isn't a moral debate, nobody's going to get told off or arrested or anything like that. It's just a story of my memories through my journey in piracy. So yeah, I mean, basically I didn't know what piracy was when I was a kid. You know, used to see adverts in the games magazine saying, you know, piracy is well, there was one that was home taping is killing music and all that, and there was the piracy ones. Was it FACT, Federation Against Copyright Theft? Those adverts and stuff in the magazines. But you just used to skip past that. I didn't actually know what it meant. You know, copyright theft, that didn't mean anything to me when I was 9 years old. But anyway, basically my journey with piracy started back in the day. My friend Alan, he and I were brothers in arms because he had an Amstrad, same as me, whilst most of our other friends had Commodore 64s and Spectrums and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, he wasn't very well when he was a kid, and he had been at the hospital and got some jags in his bum, and he found that rather unpleasant, as you would. So so his mum, to make him feel a little bit better, take the sting out of it, if you will, took him to the shops and got him a couple of games for his Amstrad. And he came rushing over, you know, when he got home. He came rushing over and said to me, "I've got a couple of new games, would I like to go over and play them?" So I said, yes, that'd be lovely. Went over to his house and we played the games and had tea and all that kind of stuff, which was all jolly good fun. And one of the games he got was Rambo. And you know, we played it and played it and played it, and it's rock solid, it's really hard, but we enjoyed playing it. And I said to him, "Oh, that's really good. I'll maybe, you know, ask for Christmas or something like that, or whatever." And he says, "I'll give you a copy of it." And I went, what do you mean?" You know, I thought he was going to buy me a copy of it or something. The fact that you could copy tapes never entered never entered my mind. I didn't know you could do that. You know, I didn't have a double tape deck. I'd never seen such a thing. But he had an older sister who had a hi-fi with a double tape deck in it, and he had known about copying music tapes and things like that, like you did, you know, back in the day, making mixtapes and things like that. Before playlists on iTunes and stuff, kids and Spotify and all that kind of stuff, that's what you did. But yeah, so his sister had showed him how to copy tapes and things like that. And it never even entered my mind that you could copy computer games. Didn't think anything of it. So he said, "Go and get a blank tape, and I'll give you a copy of Rambo." Well, I went and ran over to the house, got a blank tape, and took it over, and he gave me a copy of Rambo and Match Point and a couple of other things. Ended up filling a tape with games. And this was a whole new world to me. This is suddenly, you know, my other friends that had Amstrads, we could swap games, because I had a pretty decent collection back in the day, you know, so we could kind of swap games and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea it was illegal. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I genuinely didn't. I had no idea. You know, and I wasn't obviously doing anything commercial. I wasn't copying these games and selling them down a market or anything like that. But at the same time, you know, I was essentially stealing games. These guys were losing money because I wasn't buying the game. But it's just what we did, you know. I was 9, 10 years old, whatever it was. I didn't know any better. And it's not an excuse, but, you know, that's just the way it was back in the day. But anyway, you ended up with things like this. Get the glare off, there we go. Yeah. Compilation tapes of copied games. Bruce Lee, Exploding Fist, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you ended up having drawers or shelves full of copied tapes of all the games. And that's just the way you did it, you know. It was still amazing to me that I could just go to my friends and get a loan of their games and get a copy of them. It became a bit of a pain with multi-load tapes and all that kind of stuff, and some games wouldn't copy for some reason. But obviously manufacturers got wise to this and they started putting in copy protection, the dreaded copy protection. And you got things like on Jet Set Willy, which famously has got one of the worst or best early software copyright protection systems. Now that'll bring back a few memories to some people. When the game boots up, and you can see how big that is in the thing. I mean, it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 pages. Excuse me. Software protection card. There you go. So when the game boots up, it asks you for a colour section. I think it's 4 colours. So there's 4 colours per box. So it would say, you know, type in the 4 colours at page 2, grid C6. So you have to look up page 2, grid C6, type in the 4 colours in order to get the game to play. So it would always load, you know, even if you copied it, but you had to have this chart. And you couldn't just scan it and print it. That didn't exist back in those days. You could get a colour photocopy of it, but it was about a couple of quid to get a colour photocopy back in those days. So some people would sit and draw this out by hand. I mean, to me, I would have rather just bought the game, but, you know, some people were that desperate to get the game that they would quite happily sit and draw this bloody thing out. And of course it's not folding back how it should, I'll do that later. But yeah, it's just mad that they would come up with these things, and some people... I suppose the thing with some people that like to pirate games, it was the thing that you could get it for nothing. Even if you spent 3 nights drawing out that sheet, I still got the game for nothing. You know, and I know there are people... I had a few friends in modern times who would download movies and all that kind of stuff, and Windows and all that kind of thing, just because they could get it for free. You know, the fact they had to hack activation codes and God knows all what and do all sorts of weird stuff to get the thing to work and spend hours and hours and hours trying to get it to go. You know, that was inconsequential to them. They're like, I got it for nothing, I'm quite happy, you know, and my machine's full of viruses and only half works. But, you know, I've never been like that. I couldn't be bothered with that kind of nonsense. I did pirate games, and, you know, but like Jet Set Willy, I think I got the budget version of that when it was released, you know, a few months after it came out. I wouldn't have sit and draw that thing out, but yeah, there was other things as well, like in Turtles. I think this was one of the kind of first ones that did the other type of copy protection sheet, which you might be able to see on camera. It's same kind of grid thing. I'll not even be able to read this with my glasses on, Christ, even if... Anyway, it's the same sort of thing, you know, box, whatever, C6, type in the code that's in C6. You couldn't photocopy that, that's why it's kind of burgundy on burgundy. You can read that with a human eye, but if you photocopy that, it just comes out as a page of black. So, you know, and it was 4 pages long. So they started getting quite innovative with their copy protection to stop people, because you would need to be really desperate to sit and type out, you know, 4 pages of codes like that. You know, you'd go cockeyed by the end of that. But again, some people were just so desperate to get a game for free that they would happily do that. I don't know that any cassette games were smart enough to kind of give you a bad copy, even if there was no copy protection on the, you know, no booklets that you had to type in. But yeah, it's crazy. But obviously, copying tapes was dead easy, and it was only in the latter stages that you got the kind of copy protection stuff that would drive everybody bonkers and kind of put them off a little bit. But I inevitably, I would copy games when they first came out if my friends had them and I really wanted them. But I always kind of bought the games eventually, whether it be budget games or getting them on a compilation, or actually buying the game, you know, Christmas or something like that. So it was almost like a try before you buy kind of deal that I was doing. But again, I was still guilty of it. It wasn't until the Amiga days, which was my timeline. I went Atari, Amstrad to Sega Mega Drive to Amiga, and it was only when I got to the Amiga days that I was aware of what piracy actually was, and you know that it was a commercial industry, because you would get things like Cannon Fodder, you know, an amazing game, but this was 40 quid to buy. Now, when I was at the age that I had my Amiga, I was working, but I got £40 a week when I was working, when I first started my apprenticeship. So I couldn't justify a week's wages on one game, especially if that game turned out to be shit. Now, Cannon Fodder isn't shit, it's one of my favourite games, but that's not part of the story. You know, you couldn't drop a week's wages on one game. You would have to be really into a game or have lots of money. So what you did is you went to your local market. Usually there was a couple. There was Ingliston Market in just outside Edinburgh, or you went through to Glasgow to the Barras, where, you know, guys would have folders laid out in market stalls. They would have all these folders. Some of them would have a TV with videos playing videos of the actual game, just on a kind of loop, like an attract mode thing. But you would find the folder for the system you had, you know, Atari ST or Amiga or PC or whatever it was, and you would look through the folder, and the folder would have the list of all the games, and you would look at how much the games were, because what they used to do is charge you something like £3 for the first disc, and then £1.90 for, well, whatever, £1.50 or £2 for every other disc after that. So if you bought a 2-disc game, it was whatever, a fiver. If you bought a 10-disc game like Beneath a Steel Sky or something, you know, you were probably cheaper going out and buying the original. But you would go up and you would say, you know, Cannon Fodder, it's number 350 or whatever, and you'd say to the guy, "Geez, Cannon Fodder for the Amiga," and they'd say, "Right, that's whatever it is, a fiver, thank you very much." And some guy would disappear through the back and go away because they didn't have any of the discs. I found this all out later on, I didn't know this at the time, but they never had any of the discs on the stall, so that if they got raided by the police didn't have all this counterfeit software lying about. But one of the guys, a little runner guy, would go into the car park, you know, off-site, and into the back of a van and look through all the cases of discs and come scurrying back, and then you would get handed 2 discs like that. And he would say, "There you go, mate, Cannon Fodder, job done." And that's you went away, you know. And sometimes there were 3 or 4 different vendors, so you could walk about and see who had the best deal, because you would have a limited budget. You'd maybe have £10 or £20, you know, you'd maybe have saved up a little bit, and you'd have a 20 quid. So you'd try and maximise the amount of games you could get for 20 quid. So you couldn't just go in willy-nilly and buy a couple of 5-disc games. That's your budget blown straight away. Thankfully I wasn't into adventures, because the adventure games were the ones that had, you know, 10 discs, the point and click adventures. I was always into kind of action arcade games, which were usually only a couple of discs. But yeah, so you'd get a couple of discs with handwritten things on them, you know, with whatever your game was, and that was you. You would go away quite happy. Thank you very much. Later on, it got to the point where I remember one guy in the Barras. What you would do with him, I don't know if he was new to the game or whatever, or naive, or whether they just didn't care. They were obviously making money hand over fist, but you would go up and you would ask for, you know, whatever, Cannon Fodder 2, and he'd go, "All right, mate, 2 minutes," and he had an Amiga running under the counter, and he basically reach down, put a couple of discs in, and fire up Xcopy Pro on the Amiga and start copying games. So he would copy them in front of you, and you go, "There you go, that's disc 1 done," and then disc 2 and whatever. And you would stand in front of it, and, you know, it felt really shady. And yeah, it was bizarre, because you were kind of excited about going at the time, to, you know, because thinking, great, I'll get some new games. But I always felt a bit shady while you were there, because I'm a goody two shoes, you know. I was expecting a big hand on the shoulder saying, "Right, Gav, you're nicked out," you know. But it never happened, thankfully. I never got arrested or in trouble for copying games. But because like I say, I didn't actually copy them, I just used to buy them, which, you know, in hindsight, again, you're just like, oh God, you know, you don't know what you were funding, but it's just what you did back in the day. And of course you would go with your pals, and you would have to kind of coordinate between you and say, right, I'm going to get cannon fodder, you get whatever, Eye of the Beholder or whatever, and you get something else. So that we all got different things, because there's no point in the two of you paying for the same thing, because we used to go back and then kind of, right, okay, what you got, let's copy that. And we'd give each other copies of the copies. So it was like, you know, self-proliferating piracy. And it was only at that time with the Amiga that I kind of, like I say, that I was aware that it was wrong, you know. And I didn't really want to do it, but again, I couldn't afford a week's wages on one game. So yeah, you just had to do what you had to do. And I've now got, you know, I don't know, 70 or 80 original Amiga games, probably more than that. And I know it doesn't help the developers now buying them second hand, but it's kind of making up for all the games that I enjoyed, you know, pirated back in the day. But yeah, so after the Amiga, everything started to move to CD, really. And they didn't have CD writers to start with, so you couldn't copy CDs. Some people come up with clever ways to have virtual CD drives and things on the PC, so you could, in theory, sort of copy a disc to your PC and all that kind of stuff. I never done any of that. I couldn't be asked doing all that kind of stuff. It wasn't until I worked in PC World while I was a student, and there was one year at Christmas, in the Christmas sale, they had marked down a single speed CD writer, because double speed CD writers had come out. So they had a CD writer, and it was £199, and it was reduced to £100. And I had been saving up, I got some money for Christmas and all that kind of stuff, so I went in and I got staff discount on it, so I think I got it for like 85 quid. And I went home and installed a single speed CD writer on my PC, my Pentium 2 PC that I had, a great machine. And yeah, suddenly I could copy music CDs. So I used to go to the Central Library in Edinburgh, who had a music department, like a lending library. You could go in and for, I think it was like £1 or something like that, you could borrow CDs or tapes. So I used to go in there and borrow the CDs and copy the CDs. And this was in the days before you could rip stuff to like MP3 and all that. MP3 didn't exist at that point. You've got to remember I'm quite old. But yeah, so I used to copy CDs, but it would play in real time because it was a single speed CD writer. So it would buffer the whole CD and then ask you to put in your blank and copy it. It was such a laborious process, but you know, it was a novelty. And blank CDs were expensive at the time. I think it was like £10 or £12 for 10 CDs. So yeah, it was, you couldn't buy a cake of 100 CDs for, you know, £4 back in those days. But I found out that later on, you could get, I had a PlayStation after the sort of PC era, but I found out that you could get your PlayStation chipped, or you could get this little box that sat in the back, and you plug that in and you put a little spring in your CD door to keep it open, which let you do swaps and things like that. Basically you could play backup games, i.e. copied games. So Blockbuster back in the day used to let you rent PlayStation games and Saturn and all that kind of stuff, but it was a PlayStation I had. So I remember hiring some games, and they came in these funky little blue plastic cases. So when you went to the shops, you would see, you know, the case like that, and it would be whatever, $1.95 a night to rent it. And now you'd go and you'd get it in this funky blue plastic case with the Blockbuster logo insert thing. And then on the back it had the instructions and controls for the game. So the only thing you actually got was the disc. You might have got the instruction book as well. I don't think so. I'm sure it was just a disc. But anyway, you know, you could get a 40 quid game for £1.50 or £1.95 or whatever it was. And because I had a CD writer, you could copy the games. Now, if you just put a copied game into a normal PlayStation, nothing happened. It would read the disc and tell you that it was the wrong type of disc. But if you had your PlayStation chipped, or one of these kind of boot device things, you could play copied games. So with my trusty single speed CD writer, I used to copy the PlayStation games that I rented, just for my own use. I never copied them for anybody else because CDs were too expensive to give away. But yeah, I had probably 10 or 20, maybe 30 copied games back in the day. But again, I used to like buying PlayStation games, so I had a lot of Platinum games back in the day. Because I loved the bargain, and getting the budget re-release of a game was always better than paying full price for it. But yeah, copying games it's amazing how you find this technology and you end up using it for bizarre needs. Single speed CD writer sitting waiting on this disc copying, and of course games got bigger, and they had, when it started, it was a 74-minute CD. 74 minutes was as much you could get on it. I think it was 650 megabytes, and then games started to get slightly larger, so they would be too big for a normal CD, and they started to bring out the 80-minute CD-ROMs, which had 700 mega data, I think it was, something like that, I can't remember. But you needed, for some games, when you tried copying it, it would sit and it would burn, and you would burn a coaster because it would get to the end and it would say something buffer overrun or something, because basically there was still data still to come into the disc, so it couldn't copy it properly. And when you burned a coaster, when your discs were £1 or £1.50 each, it was not a happy time. But it was probably karma biting me in the arse for copying games in the first place. But yeah, so after after the PlayStation era, got to the PlayStation 2. Never copied a PlayStation 2 game, because by then I had, I was working full time and I had a little bit more disposable income, so I would just buy all my PlayStation games. And I've never chipped or copied games on anything since, any commercial systems. But the whole piracy thing comes back a little bit now with emulation and modern means of playing games for old systems. It's quite bizarre that you can go onto your computer now on a high speed internet connection and download a 700 megabyte game, and it's ready to play on an emulator, or if you have the right software, you can convert it and put it back onto a disc and play it on the real machine. Because a lot of these early machines, certainly, they didn't have CD copy protection because nobody had CD writers, so they didn't feel any need. So systems like the Sega Mega CD and stuff like that, there's Neo Geo, the kind of really early machines, you could just play backup games on them, because I think they didn't expect anybody to have CD writers. It would have been far too expensive back in the day. So now, I mean, the mad thing is, games like Lords of Thunder, that costs a fortune if you try and buy it. It's like 150 quid or something ludicrous like that. And it's quite fun, but it's not. I don't agree with these games that are 150 quid. No, that's just stupid. But you can download the ROM and burn it to disc, and if you're really sad, print out a cover for it and print out the disc cover. It is a copied CD, naughty boy. But yeah, I mean, that's an American disc, but you can change the boot sector on it with a bit of software to make it a UK playable disc. And then you can get nice funky custom artwork like that to put in DVD cases, and it just gives you a nice little disc. Or if you want to go more authentic, you can do things like that. This is a Neo Geo CD game, and I got the Neo Geo CD console last year because I couldn't afford the Neo Geo CD back in the day. It was stupidly expensive, and some of the games still cost a fortune. But the good thing is it'll play backup games no problem. So you can just, oops, nearly dropped that. You can just download the ROM image, cut it to CD, print out your nice artwork, so it looks all official and that kind of stuff. I haven't done the cover with that, but you can get these ROMs freely off of Google and whatnot, and just burn it back to disc. Now, I would love a collection of original Neo Geo games, but again, they go for stupid money. Some of these games are £300 and £400 each. even second hand, which is just ludicrous. So, you know, I'll stick to playing backups for now. I do have a few originals. You know, I do like having original games, and wherever possible I will buy originals, even if I've, you know, burned a copy like that. That'll keep me going until I get a bargain maybe on a original copy, and I will replace them. But yeah, it's just crazy that you're still doing this kind of stuff, you know, 20, 30 years after piracy kind of killed the industry apparently. But yeah, anyway, listen, that's enough of my waffling. That is my history through piracy. I've got all these things all laid out in front of me. It's quite bizarre. But yeah, I mean, like I say, it's something that everybody did back in the day. You know, everybody copied their mates' games, or bought copied discs from markets and things like that. Mostly it was down to just not having much money, unfortunately. And again, it's not an excuse. It was just the reality. You know, you couldn't afford to buy a lot of these games. So yeah, anyway, that's enough of my waffling. I hope you enjoyed this bizarre trip through memory lane. Let me know if you had any experience of the same kind of thing, you know, if you used to copy your mates' games and whatnot, and if you ever went to the lengths of copying all these copyright protection charts and all that kind of stuff. I mean, the Amiga games even come with like wheels and things like that you have to kind of get things in the right order, and bizarre. So did you go to any extreme lengths just to get a copied game rather than buying the original? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time.